I'm fighting like hell, and we're going to protect Canada. He's underestimating the Canadian people, the resilience of the Canadian people, and the strength of the Canadian people. I don't start a tariff war, but we're going to win this tariff war.
In the shadow of global tensions, one country quietly rewrote its economic future, not with protests or politics, but with ports, power, and partnerships. This is how Canada outgrew its dependency on the United States, and why Washington never saw it coming. For decades, Canada's economy mirrored its southern neighbor. Trade routes, energy grids, even supply chains, all intertwined with the U.S. But that dependency came with vulnerability. Tariffs, political instability, and shifting leadership in Washington exposed a hard truth. Canada needed options, so it built them. Canada's northern geography became its strategic edge. While Washington downplayed Arctic importance, Norway and Denmark joined Canada in cold-weather defense initiatives. But the real shift was economic. Near Kingston, Ontario, a $1.5 billion cathode plant rose quietly. It wasn't just a factory, it was the cornerstone of the battery corridor, linking Canadian mines to European gigafactories. No American ports, no American policies. Solid-state battery tech, faster, safer, lighter, wasn't being licensed from the U.S. anymore. It was being co-developed with German and Dutch firms. Canada wasn't just supplying raw materials, it was shaping the future of energy itself. In Quebec, vertical farms powered by Canadian hydro and Dutch batteries grew produce year-round, completely off-grid. These weren't science experiments, they were commercial farms supplying Europe. European firms were pouring in. Norway funded hydrogen, Germany financed wind, and Dutch banks backed agricultural innovation. All coordinated, all strategic. Canadian policy started aligning less with Washington and more with Brussels. The Halifax port expanded, not for U.S. trade, but to ship batteries straight to Europe. Meanwhile, the Trans Mountain Pipeline connected Alberta to Asia, bypassing American refineries. Suddenly, Canadian oil, gas, and renewables didn't need American markets at all. The dependency web was unraveling. But then came the shock. In Ontario, engineers realized a critical truth. Power can't be paused. Nuclear reactors and hydro dams don't stop generating electricity because of politics. When Canada temporarily halted electricity exports, Ontario's grid strained, and U.S. states like Minnesota and New York faced blackouts within days. Hospitals ran emergency drills. Coal plants restarted. Diesel generators roared back to life. Clean energy stayed in Canada. Pollution returned to America. The illusion of energy independence shattered. The grid was more than a cable. It was a shared lifeline. And now, Canada held the switch. Washington responded with threats. Suspend the electricity surcharge or face retaliation, said U.S. officials. But this wasn't the old Canada. Premier Doug Ford, backed by European capital and global options, didn't fold. U.S. refineries built for Canadian crude scrambled. Retooling would cost billions. And Asia? They were already buying. Meanwhile, climate planners in Massachusetts watched their emissions spike 9% in 2 weeks. Their goals were unachievable because they hadn't imagined a world where Canada wasn't on their side. In Ontario, what once went to Detroit now shipped to Hamburg. EV chargers, battery components, software, retooled assembly lines, retrained workers. Dutch and German investors funded training programs. Korean engineers helped scale precision battery systems. Ottawa didn't orchestrate this shift. Business did. Quietly, efficiently, permanently. In northern Ontario, Indigenous-led microgrids transformed remote communities. No longer dependent on diesel trucks, they now generated clean energy and jobs. The shift wasn't announced. It was built, contract by contract, powered by global trust. Canada's trade was now global by default. In Singapore, Ontario signed cobalt deals in yen. Saskatchewan sold wind power via blockchain. No US dollar involved. Quebec's battery hub faced Europe, not America. Pension funds shifted. Venture capital chased Brussels, not Washington. Curricula changed. Even local colleges trained for European systems. Canada's industries were aligning with Europe, not just economically but intellectually. Battery wars weren't just about cars, they were about control. Canada, free from American export restrictions, became a magnet for global talent. No limits, no interference. Every pipeline, port, and plant now pointed to Europe or Asia. The infrastructure wasn't just new, it was permanent. In Windsor, half of the electricity once bound for Michigan was rerouted to Quebec, to reserves, to Europe. No one said it out loud, but the numbers spoke. Political trust, as one professor put it, only lasts as long as both sides want it. And Washington had pushed too far, too often. Canada didn't slam the door. It just found other doors and walked through them. So where does that leave the United States? Can trust be rebuilt, or has Canada already moved on? Let us know in the comments. Is this just a trade pivot, or the start of something bigger? Thanks for watching.